All right. Find your way to your yoga mat. Come into a comfortable seat. And then close your eyes and take a couple moments to notice the quality of light in your day. We can imagine that as we are changing beings and as the earth is a changing being, the sun is also a changing being. And our experiences of the light from the sun is a little bit like our experiences that mark time. So the quality of light changes with us. Bring your hands to heart center. Maybe you want to dedicate your class to someone. Empty your breath and let's sound 3 ohms. Take a deep inhale. Ah. Now, keeping your eyes closed, just start by making some faces. Maybe smile really broadly, grin, wiggle your face, stretch out what you can, make everything move. And then we're going to do these face yoga wows. So you're going to go wow and open your eyes. Wow, wow, wow. Like, wow, isn't life amazing and crazy? Wow. Beautiful. And then start to just roll your head in the cradle of your shoulders. Noticing the spots that feel a little sticky, a little tricky, a little painful, maybe lingering there instead of just jumping over them. And then reverse direction, rolling your head back, feeling that your skull even like massages your neck. One more time. And then when you come back to center, wiggle tall through your spine. And let's go right into wide-kneed child's pose. And of course, you're welcome to make more faces while you're in the poses. But take your knees wide, big toes touching, stretching your arms out in front of you. Bring your forehead onto the ground. And then just take a couple more moments and notice and listen to the sounds around you. For a moment, it really sounded like I lived by the beach because there was these seagull sounds, the fighting seagull sounds coming through. But this wide-kneed child's pose, it's nice and grounding. It's got some intensity because your knees are out wide. But mostly it feels pretty comfortable. So today we're focusing on a liver series, not just because of the liver, but that the liver is coupled together with the gallbladder in traditional Chinese medicine, where the liver is the yin organ, and by comparison, the gallbladder is the yang organ. And the gallbladder in occult physiology is most connected to Mars. And the reason we're thinking about Mars is because we can feel that there's so much energy in Aries, including Mars that was just recently conjunct Saturn. So it's like, whoa, it's that serious, strong Mars sensation that we get. And with so much activity in this fire sign, you might be noticing how it's as if your nervous system is kind of just lifted up or tuned higher than usual. A little bit more electricity in your inner experience, heat. And while heat is definitely part of the Mars and Martian impulse, electricity is a little bit more Uranus, who is on the final degrees of Taurus, this body experience of that. So maybe that's also part of this strumming that we feel. And the sun just moved into Taurus, which is lovely. So it's out of Aries. It's having a grounding effect. But still, there's a strong charge, palpable. And it's this kind of energy that can kind of tip the balance into arguments or tip the balance into wanting to imbibe or, do things that are a little out of your grounded and steady self. There's excitement, even nervousness or anxiety, and even for some people, psychological breaks that is in this season. The season of spring, yes, but especially this year with the season of having so much planetary activity in Aries. So start to slide your knees together. Let your arms come back behind you, giving you a couple of breaths where you're in embryo pose. It should feel safe and good. And then we're going to slide forward into Sphinx. So you're welcome to, maybe roll your head again or just kind of wiggle your neck, wiggle your shoulders, feel how this Sphinx feels today. Notice the difference about how it feels when you first get there and how even just after a couple of breaths, it seems to settle in terms of sensation. So the sun is now in the earth sign, so it's good. It's got that grounding feeling. And with all the earth signs, we can always imagine that like the real, the sensual qualities about being on earth are magnified. So when there's an earth sign, we often talk about what's manifest, what the results are, what's really in front of us, material wise, the structure and a slow energy. Having more to do with our physical nature than, for instance, when we're talking about air signs, it has so much to do with our mental nature, our thinking qualities, our capacity to connect to lots of different ideas or have thoughts we've never had before. In water, we celebrate really this emotionality, the quality of deep feeling, of all feelings, especially feelings around your heart. Emotions more than sensations. And then with fire, we always celebrate an impulse. We celebrate the will, especially in Aries, but in all of the fire signs. And with fire, there is an unusual quality that we don't see in the other elements that actually directly connects the fire signs to topics having to do with spirit. Even ego. So with the physical body, it's so easy to understand that's connected to earth. With the etheric body, we can kind of have I do tend to connect it to the water signs, and then the astral body to the air signs, and the ego would be fire. And when we study fire, we start to notice that that element is the element that actually changes the other elements. So if we have water in the depths of winter, it becomes so solid that it acts like earth. And in the heights of summer, it evaporates and lifts up away from the earth, bringing us closer to the experience of an airy quality. And it's temperature that makes the state change. Now slide your hands back, bring them to where your elbows were, tuck your toes under, lift up into plank, and bring your right knee forward to your right elbow. Lift it up a little higher, and then place it in front of your wrist. It was just a little imph. You can find what position works for you. So if you're feeling a little tighter in your body today, you can always really slide to the outside of your right hip and bend your left knee a little bit. You can also always make the small adjustment of taking your right knee further out than your right hip. Lift up nicely, opening and expanding and stretching the front of your sternum, and then start to walk your hands forward, going directly into sleeping swan. Now, those comparisons to our subtle bodies, of course, they are, loosely connected. There's not direct correlation, or you can't substitute one for the other. But this quality of fire is transformative. And as the Taurus sign symbolizes the middle or the heart of a season, in spring we really see so much change happening as the warmth increases, as the amount of light increases. Even though I heard it just recently snowed in New Hampshire. And here in Sweden, it's not, it snowed the day before Easter. And we never know until really late if it's going to snow again or not. But every day as I come out of my house, I look around and I feel like the plants have taken leaps and bounds during the night, quietly poking through with new leaves and new growth, new flowers, new colors. And you have days like today where it's so balmy and warm during the day, it's hard to remember how cold it was last week or even last night as it dropped below freezing. So in response to our fieriness in the heavens, where do we find our groundedness? Both fire and air always rise upward, while water and earth brings us downward. So I think one of the nice combinations between a fire and water or fire and earth is actually how we are creative, whether it's creative in our capacity to cook another meal or in the capacity of making art or anywhere in between. Now start to walk your hands back towards your knee, lifting your chest up. And I'm just going to roll up onto my right knee and pull my left knee behind my right knee and then stretch my feet out to the side a little bit more, especially the left foot, and see if I can get a snug fit between my knees and then slide your hips down to the ground, setting up for shoelace pose. You can take your hands next to your hips and just slide the booty back, creating a little bit more space to bow forward with, and then soften your chin to your chest and roll down, bringing your forehead towards your knee. One of the most inspiring forms of fire we know is thinking about the sun and how much it is the giver of life in our earthly world, in our earthly incarnation. And that we, like all living beings, need the sunlight. And that actually, by being outdoors quite a bit in the spring, it prepares us to be outdoors in the summer. Not only do we know that when the sunlight hits the back of your eye, especially early morning light, it helps bring your circadian rhythms back in line if they're all wacky. But we know the effect of sunlight on us in so many different ways is a healing property. I mean, the warmth alone, think about how little our little aches and pains and squeaks and annoying little things, they hurt less when it's warm. Plain and simple. Notice if you can soften a little bit more towards the place where we resist. And then start to walk your hands back towards you, leaving your legs as they are. You're going to lift up tall and stretch your left arm up to the sky, and then start to slide your right arm out to the right, bending to your right, stretching the space in between your ribs, letting your right elbow get heavy, feeling how naturally you're pinning down your left knee to help stabilize your left side as you stretch your left arm over to the right. And then lift up a little bit. It's not that much. And put your right foot on the ground and turn this into a twist. So you don't have to go that far. You're kind of there already. You can bring your left elbow in front of your right knee and feel that you can reach down with your right foot towards the floor. Lift up your heart and actively twist into this twist. We're taking it in the yang flavor, so being active here. And then release with a little counter bow to the other side. Just a very natural transition. And then we're going to come all the way back to Sphinx pose. Make the adjustments you want, and you might linger here, or you might directly just go into seal pose if your spine is, if this is like your 4th yoga class today, or you're under 50. I'm just kidding. Or all the different things, all the different factors. So you might just want to go straight into seal, and there's always a nice in-between seal and Sphinx where you can put a pillow or some blocks or even books underneath your forearms. So while we often talk about will when we are looking at Mars or if we're looking at Aries, this connection of Mars to the gallbladder also lifts up kind of our capacity to be courageous. I had the pleasure of talking to a good Aries friend of mine this morning. And she was telling me a story about her being courageous. And I thought about how interesting it is that for some people, it's like nearly in their coding, they have to be brave. And it was a funny contemplation to feel like when someone's wired that way, that they keep being brave. And it's so easy to kind of see the brazenness or the bravery or the gall, hence the gallbladder, that these people exert. But I find sometimes, as with warriors or with knights or with, fighters, it's easy for us to not remember that their bravery doesn't mean an absence of fear. Quite the opposite, actually. That they are examples of how to act even when there is fear. And as each one of us has a Mars, each one of us has, the zodiac influence of Aries in some capacity in our stars. Where is it that you have a habit of being brave that maybe to you doesn't even feel like a brave thing anymore because you've become so used to it? Or what part of your life is now calling you to be more brave, to exert will towards something you know to be true or you truly desire? If you're still in Sphinx, just for the last half a minute, stretch your arms up into to Seal. If you're in Seal already, you can wiggle your hands a little bit closer. A little bit like adding a little bit more fuel to the fire. And then bring your elbows down, put your hands where your elbows were, tuck your toes, lift up into plank, and bring your left knee forward to your left elbow, lift it up higher, and then place your foot forward, setting up for Sleeping Swan on the left-hand side. Stretching through your right toes. You may fully know or be familiar with which side you like better. And then slide into Sleeping Swan. And I wonder, with this question around Aries and Mars and these planets in the fire signs, we talk about warriors, right? We talk about knights, we talk about fighting, and that theme is so at home in Aries. But I wonder, one of the sentences in the back of my head that I keep hearing is like, oh, any idiot can fight. And I think that we are living in a time where it's not novel to fight. But where are we being asked to be courageous still if we're not being actually invited to a fight? What are we actually being invited to fight for? Or how else could it be that we have to now level up our game and notice that true courage doesn't come when you need to like smite someone or fight someone or dominate them. True courage actually comes when we need to do this inner push and will act to accept more of the human beings in front of us, to have more courage actually to be caring and considerate and loving and kind. Like, isn't that actually where our bar in this society is about being courageous? So really, where we used to celebrate like, oh, he had the gall to fight for this. Now maybe we need to start to change our language or change our focus and be like, oh, he had the gall to be so loving. He had the gall to be so kind. Because truly, doesn't it feel that way when we're out in the world meeting our fellow human beings, that it takes nothing these days to start a fight? But to come into a place of peacemaking. Truly requires a much finer quality of courage. Notice where you can actually be more gentle with yourself in this pose. Again, a different kind of courage, isn't it? And then start to slide your hands back towards your left knee. And lift up onto your left shin and slide your right knee behind your left knee. Cuddle your knees together. Try to separate your feet. So it's more like you're trying to bring your feet more out to the side. You can imagine you're trying to invoke the image of the ox horns for our Taurus. Even though Taurus rules the throat, as you well know. Now, take your hands next to your hips, slide your buttocks back, lift up your heart, and then roll down, bringing your chin to your chest, letting your head hang towards your left knee. Let's even put this in terms of like reincarnation. Like if we imagine that we have been in this world so many times, and if we just even look back at our history, and not just our lifetime, but like look back 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, keep looking back and then think about, haven't we been fighting for long enough? With our fists, with our might. How can that impulse be transmuted and transformed to create the fertile ground for a future we understand that is coming towards us, that really realigns morals and merit with success, with riches. That somehow this fighting spirit of ours needs to champion this idea that if my neighbors aren't well and cared for, if my neighbors aren't fed, housed, loved, successful, then I cannot be successful. My own success at the detriment of others isn't success. That my own wealth without the care for others isn't a wealth, isn't truly a success, a win. And we know this in our bones. We know it when we see those less fortunate than us. We know it when we notice, like, when someone around us is hurt, that we echo that pain, even if it's not us that has the injury. We feel it, we cringe, we shudder, we shake. Or start to walk your hands towards you, roll up, and stretch your right arm up to the ceiling, and then slide your left elbow out to the left, letting your left ear come towards your left shoulder. I mean, maybe we already know it in our biographies. It doesn't take that much courage to start a fight, but it sure does take courage to forgive another person or to ask for forgiveness yourself. And then start to rise up, and you, not that far, you plant your left foot on the ground and slide your right arm outside your left knee. Inhale, lift up tall. Exhale, twist to your left. Coming here actively, noticing the more upright we are, the deeper the twist can actually move. And then release. Do a little counter bow, of course, on the other side, if you didn't forget. And then bring the bottoms of your feet together. Grab onto your shins, lift up your chest, open up your chest, and then settle back onto your elbows. Maybe shimmying your elbows closer together. Feeling that pinching sensation of your shoulder blades, popping your chest up a little higher. If it's okay for you, start to let your head hang back. Practice surrendering into the shape of this pose. I think it's also pretty cool that, like, for instance, some people have said to me, like, oh, you're so courageous for going and, like, living in different countries or moving around a lot. And, like, never did that feel like a courageous act on my part. I find I have to pluck up my courage for other things much more. But that from the other person's perspective, the places where we think people are being brave might not be for them the most challenging, bravest thing that they do. So letting in this feminine quality to the fire nature might help us see different ways that people can be brave, even if it's inner shifts or emotional bravery, or the bravery to hold and contain or care for other humans. Now start to let your elbows slide out to the side, coming into this reclining variation. You can take your hands into triple diamond. I think it's very appropriate. Your thumb and your index finger together, your fingers spread out. Slide your thumbs to where your head and the ground meet. The bravery to take your time with the practice. The bravery to prioritize yourself for part of your day. The hope is, as we travel with the sun through the cycles of the zodiac, is that we don't lose the capacity of where it's been and just are ripe with where it's at, but that we are ever building on what has come before. So as the sun leads the excursion into Taurus, to not lose the fiery ignition of your will from Aries, this Aries input. And no worries, you're not gonna, because Aries has Neptune and Saturn hanging out there for a while. Now slide your hands apart, grab onto your knees, rock just side to side, massaging your kidney area. Do some circles, massaging your sacrum, not just the kidney area, but your whole lower back, your lower spine, even the coccyx bone. You can do a cathartic twist if you want. Just going back and forth to a side. And then when you're ready, stretch your beautiful ankle body into the heavenly Shavasana. Having the courage to take more time for your practice if you need it. And then to make sure that you leave enough time to have Shavasana. Eyes closed or covered, palms open, and your body relaxed. With your next inhale, start to invite your breath back to the edges of your body. Wiggle your fingers and your toes and notice your inhabiting of your body, your spirit in your body, your fire amongst your earth, air, and water. Wiggle your arms long over your head, wiggle your toes away from your hands, and then curl into a ball and roll over onto your right hand side, hugging your knees to your chest. And then help yourself up into a comfortable seated position. Allow your hands to meet at heart center. Let your elbows be heavy. Close your eyes and think of the person you dedicated your class to. Let's close with one Om. Empty your breath. Take a deep inhale. Ah. Bring your prayer hands to your third eye. Invite the divine light. And as we bow forward together, we say, Namaste. So much love. Make some noise. Woo-hoo.